Welcome back to the Trending Communicator. I'm your host, Dan.
We're taking over the Trending Communicator podcast today, and wow, you've sent us a ton of stuff about the future of communications.
It's a hot topic.
It really is. It seems like everyone wants to know how to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, and they're right to be thinking about that. Things are changing fast. One of the biggest shifts, it's the whole idea of job descriptions. They're not what they used to be.
You mean they're not just like a list of tasks anymore?
Exactly. It's less about checking boxes and more about being adaptable and always learning.
So less about can you do this specific thing, and more about can you learn and grow?
Yeah, exactly. It used to be like you had to fit into this very specific mold, right? Like those shaped toys kids play with. But now it's more like, building with Legos. You can create anything you want if you have the right pieces.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
So how does this actually play out for our listener? I mean, should they throw away their resume and just, start building a portfolio of projects instead?
I wouldn't say ditch the resume entirely, but definitely think differently about how you show off your skills and what you've done.
So instead of focusing on job titles, what should you be highlighting?
Talk about problems you've solved, initiatives you led, the results you got.
It's more about showing what you can do, not just listing where you worked.
Right. And this is where personal branding comes in. When AI is taking over the routine stuff, it's those human skills, those experiences that make you stand out.
So in this world full of deepfakes and misinformation, how do you even build a strong personal brand?
Start with authenticity. Be real. Share your story.
Let people see who you really are.
Exactly. People want realness, especially online where everything can feel so, fake.
So don't try to be someone you're not. Be yourself and let that be the foundation of your brand.
I like that. And it's not just about promoting yourself. It's about building relationships, sharing what you know, adding value to your community.
And speaking of community, a lot of the sources we got really emphasize its importance. Why is that?
Well, think about it. In a world where everything's changing constantly, you need people. You need support, guidance, people to bounce ideas off of.
Like a network of advisors, cheerleaders.
Yeah, I like that. And it's not just about what you get, it's about what you give back.
Contributing, sharing, helping others.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about AI. Everyone's talking about how it's going to revolutionize communication.
It definitely is. But it's not about robots taking over. It's about using AI to make us better, more efficient.
So it's a tool we can use to our advantage.
Definitely. Think data analysis. AI can help us spot trends, understand our audiences better, really tailor our messages.
So we can use AI to get inside our audience's heads and figure out what they really want.
Kind of, yeah. It can reveal insights that we might miss, and that helps us communicate more effectively.
You mentioned tailoring messages. Does that mean AI can help us with storytelling too?
Absolutely. It can analyze data to find the most compelling stories, help us write drafts, even translate stuff for different audiences.
Wow, that's amazing. But do you think AI will make human creativity obsolete?
I don't think so. AI can enhance creativity, but it can't replace that human spark. Like one source said, we still own the crazy.
So AI can handle the technical stuff, but we bring the heart and the soul.
Exactly. It can amplify our efforts, but it can't replicate human connection, empathy, those things.
It's like AI is a superpowered assistant.
Yeah.
It can help us do our jobs better, but we're still the ones calling the shots.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And that brings us to another important point. Continuous learning. The communication landscape is changing so fast.
It's like the finish line keeps moving.
Exactly. So how can people avoid becoming, dinosaurs? How do they stay ahead of the curve?
Embrace lifelong learning. Explore new tech. Experiment. Don't be afraid to try things.
Be curious, adaptable.
Exactly. And something else people should focus on is forensic listening. It's a powerful way to understand the narratives and emotions driving conversations.
Forensic listening. Tell me more.
So it's about paying attention to those subtle cues, the unspoken stuff, the emotional undercurrents. It's like being a detective.
Instead of just listening to the words, you're listening for the meaning behind them.
You got it. And that's becoming so important with all the information overload and misinformation out there.
So how can forensic listening help someone navigate this information overload?
It can help you spot biases, misinformation, understand why people think the way they do. It's a tool for building trust, resolving conflict, making good decisions.
So it's like a superpower that helps us cut through the noise and get to the truth.
You could say that. And it's a skill anyone can develop.
So it's not just about having the right technology or knowledge. It's about honing these human skills to be better communicators.
Absolutely. And that brings us to another crucial point. Ethics.
Ethics.
Yeah. With AI becoming more powerful, we have to use it responsibly. We need to think about the consequences and make sure our communications are truthful, transparent.
So it's not just what we can do, but what we should do.
Exactly. We have a responsibility to use these tools in a way that aligns with our values.
That's a great point. It seems like the future of communications is as much about our humanity as it is about technology.
I think so. It's finding that balance, leveraging AI while keeping those human skills front and center.
It sounds like the future of communications is going to be quite a ride.
It is. It's exciting.
Any final thoughts for our listener before we move on to the next part of this deep dive?
Be bold, be curious, keep learning. The future belongs to those who are willing to shape it. Welcome back to our deep dive into the future of communications. Before the break, we were talking about ethics in AI.
Yeah, using these powerful tools responsibly. And that actually ties in really well with what our listeners sent us about the media landscape. Like, how do you even get your message out there these days? The old ways don't seem to work so well anymore.
It's true. Traditional media is losing its power, and people are getting their information from all these different sources.
Like podcasts, newsletters, those online communities?
Exactly. It's fragmented. So how do you break through all that clutter?
Yeah, how do you get heard?
Well, one approach is the PESO model.
PESO.
Yeah, it stands for paid, earned, shared, and owned media.
Okay, so it's not just about sending out press releases anymore.
Right. It's about a more well-rounded strategy. So paid media, that's your traditional advertising stuff, like social media ads, sponsored content, things like that.
Okay, makes sense. What about earned media?
That's the publicity you get, like getting your company featured in a news article.
Got it. So what about the other two? Shared and owned.
Shared media, that's all about social media, online communities, getting people to share your content, spread the word. And owned media, that's the stuff you control directly, your website, your blog, your email list.
So PESO is all about spreading your bets,
Yeah.
not relying on just one thing.
Exactly. Find the right mix to reach the right people. And AI is making the lines between these different types blur even more.
Oh, how so?
Well, say you write a blog post for your company website.
That's owned media.
Right, but then you share it on social media, so now it's shared. And if it's good enough, a journalist might write about it. That's earned. And you can even boost that original post with a paid campaign.
So one piece of content could hit all four parts of PESO.
Exactly. It's all about integration, using different channels and tactics for a bigger impact. And AI can play a role in all of this.
So it seems like AI is really the common thread here.
It is. And it brings us back to something we talked about earlier, storytelling. When AI can write content, the human touch, that authentic voice, becomes even more important.
Yeah, we were talking about AI helping us with content creation, but can it actually make our stories better, more engaging?
Absolutely. Think about it. AI can analyze tons of data to figure out what kinds of stories really resonate with people. It can even help us figure out what our own strengths are as communicators.
So it's like having a data-driven storytelling coach?
Yeah, kind of. And it can help us tailor those stories for different audiences. You wouldn't tell the same story the same way to your boss and your best friend, right?
Of course not.
It's all about adapting your message.
Makes sense. But it's still up to us humans to actually craft the story, right?
Definitely. AI can enhance, but it can't replace that human spark. We still have that creativity, that empathy, the ability to connect on an emotional level.
It's interesting, this whole AI and storytelling conversation makes me think about building teams that are ready for the future.
Yeah, that's a key point. The way we work together has to change too. We need teams that are adaptable, collaborative, and data-driven.
So it's not just about individual skills anymore, it's about the whole team.
Exactly. One expert called it being T-shaped.
T-shaped.
Yeah. You need deep expertise in one area. That's the vertical part of the T.
Okay, I get it. So like writing, crisis comms, whatever your specialty is.
Right. But then you also need this broad understanding of other areas. That's the horizontal part.
So you're saying we need to be both specialists and generalists.
Yeah, kind of. Like, you might be amazing at media relations, but you also need to understand data, content, social media, and you have to work well with people who have different skills.
Be able to collaborate, play well with others.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But I'm sure some people listening are feeling overwhelmed by all this.
Yeah, it can be a lot.
So what advice would you give to someone who's maybe a little intimidated by the future of communications.
I'd say embrace the unknown. Be willing to try new things. Experiment. Don't be afraid to fail.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Exactly. Challenge yourself. Learn new things. And remember, you're not alone. We're all figuring this out together.
That's good to hear. So we've covered a lot here, the changing media landscape, building T-shaped teams. Any key takeaways before we move on to the last part of our deep dive?
The future of communications is about being adaptable, innovative, and collaborative. Use those new technologies like AI, but remember your human skills. And never stop learning.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So we've talked a lot about the big picture, but in this last part, let's get practical. What can our listener actually do to thrive in this future of communications?
Right, it's one thing to understand the trends, but how do you actually put that knowledge to work?
Exactly. And one thing we keep coming back to is this idea of being T-shaped.
Yeah, that's crucial.
It really does seem like being a specialist in just one area isn't enough anymore.
It's not. You need that deep expertise. That's the vertical part of the T. Writing, crisis comms, whatever your passion is.
But then there's that horizontal part of the T. What does that really mean? Is it just about knowing a little bit about everything?
It's more about making connections, understanding how all the different parts of communications fit together. Like, if you're a writer, don't just focus on the words. Learn about data, how AI can help with distribution.
So even if I'm not a data scientist, I should still understand how data is being used in communications.
Yeah, it's like a chef who knows how to cook, but also understands the chemistry of food, how to make it look beautiful. All those things come together to create a great meal.
Or, in our case, a great communication strategy.
Exactly.
So this broader understanding makes us more well-rounded, more effective.
Definitely. And it makes you more valuable to your team. You can understand different perspectives, see the bigger picture.
Now, we've talked a lot about AI, and I know some people are worried about it. Like, are robots going to take our jobs?
It's a natural fear. But remember, AI is a tool. It's up to us to use it responsibly.
So instead of being afraid, we should focus on learning how to use it to our advantage.
Right. Think of it as your assistant, helping you with data, content, even spotting risks. It frees you up to focus on strategy, creativity, the human stuff.
You mentioned risks. What are some of the downsides of relying too much on AI?
One risk is blindly trusting AI-generated content. AI doesn't have ethics or values, it's just processing information.
So we still need to fact check, use our judgment, make sure the message is right for our organization.
Exactly. And another risk is ending up in an echo chamber. If we only see what AI thinks we want to see, we miss out on other viewpoints.
Right. It's like we were saying before. We have to be open to new ideas, keep learning.
You guys.
So AI can be a powerful tool for learning, but we can't let it do all our thinking for us.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want to touch on personal branding again. Why is that so important in this world of AI?
Well, think about it. AI can create content that's technically perfect, but it's missing something. Your personal brand is what sets you apart. It's your voice, your values, your story.
So it's not just about having a nice website or LinkedIn profile.
It's not. It's about showing who you really are, building relationships, sharing your knowledge, showing up authentically.
So as we close out this deep dive, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? They've got a lot to think about.
I would say embrace change. Be bold, be curious, never stop learning. The future of communications is full of possibilities for those who are willing to adapt and evolve.
And remember, the future isn't something that just happens. It's something we create.
Well said.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring the future of communications, from the changing media landscape to the rise of AI and the importance of human skills. We hope this deep dive has given you, our listener, valuable insights and a roadmap for navigating this exciting new world. Thanks for joining us.